Welcome people to the first build spotlight this year. GH here. In this video we're gonna look at the buffer support build, which consists of Corsair, Thaumaturge, and Enchanter. We got a few requests for this one, so what we're gonna do is showcase each classes and what they can do, mainly the important skills only, and tell you guys why each of these classes are here in this build, then the good and the bad, and maybe a new segment, I don't know. I'll think about it along the way. And without further ado, let's do this! Okay, here's the classes. There's Corsair, Thaumaturge, and Enchanter. And as usual, we're gonna be testing it out in the fields to show you guys what this build is all about. Let's start this. First off, Corsair. Now Corsair is your Jolly Roger pirate class that uses both pistol and dagger, and it specializes on increasing damage of the scout classes and also buffing teammates. That's the important one. The reason we took this class is because this class works with the two other classes in this build. And yes, you could say this is the main class of this build, because this is the only class here with actual damaging skills, which you're gonna need to survive in the world of Tree of Savior. So what are those skills? First skill we're gonna show is Jolly Roger. This is the reason why this build is a damage increase support class. And what Jolly Roger does is erect a flag which triggers a combo meter, wherein if you get 100 combo, your teammates around the flag will get a 27% or more damage increase depending on your attribute, and it lasts 10 seconds. But if you have Swell Hands learned, which is a Thaumaturge skill, it will have an additional 25 seconds, so that's 35 seconds in total. Plus, the damage increase fever buff will have 30% more damage on top of the existing damage buff. So that's good. But wait, there's more. If you have Enchanter and have learned Over Reinforce, there will be another 25 seconds of duration added to the fever buff. So in total, it's 60 seconds. It's 1 minute of fever buff. That's a lot. That should be enough for most raid bosses. But wait, there's more again. You will also have plus 10 to movement speed, 10% to critical damage, and 10% to minimum crit rate. But wait! There's more! Jolly Roger has an art called Support Shot, wherein if learned, when the fever buff is activated, a bombardment will drop onto the location of the flag, dealing AoE damage around. And that's it! There you go! That's the reason why this class build was built, to form one of the best damage increase buff for a whole team. That said, Corsair still have some other skills, namely Brutality. This is a skill that increases your own damage by 40% and it consumes 30 SP per 5 seconds. This is a very useful skill for obvious reasons. This is a much more useful skill if you have a class that specializes on damage dealing. Next skill is Impale Dagger. Take this to increase the skill factor of this skill, making it very useful. This is an AoE pierced dagger attack wherein you dash forward and stab to inflict some damage. Next skill is Quick and Dead, a weirdly named pistol skill which is an AoE attack which gains 15% chance to land a crit. So it's a skill that's useful against both single target and mobs. Next skill is Dust Devil. This skill is a rotating slash that deals damage and gets 2 times crit chance to bleeding enemies. Use this at all times because in this build, this is one of your most reliable skills. Last skill we're gonna cover in Corsair is Hexen Dropper. This is an oddly wide stab skill. You're gonna need this even though it's not as great as the others, because in this build, your damaging skills is very limited. And that's Corsair. After the big update, this class got buffed and is more useful now than before. Next class we're gonna tackle is Thaumaturge. Now Tome is a class that specializes in buffs that will either increase damage or increase loot chance. And it can also make mobs increase in size, make them swell, so that they will drop 2 items instead of just 1. This class is very useful for farming. And the reason we took this class is because of Swell Hands, one of its skills. As I've said, it strengthens the fever buff of Jolly Roger, but aside that, Swell Hands also have its own effect, and it gives an additional 700 plus to maximum attack for 300 seconds. And mind you, this is a party buff. Next skill on the Thaumaturge line of buffs is Swell Brain. Normally you would think it would increase your int, right? But no, it increases your loot chance. But if you have the art Swell Brain Magic, it will now give plus 10 to int and spirit per attribute level. There's another version for physical which gives plus 10 to strength and dex per attribute level. That means you're gonna have to buy the art 5 times because the max level of the art is level 5, which gives plus 50 stat. The last buff is Quicken. This increases your party's attack speed by 165 at max level. This is a very good skill if you're an auto attack build, but right now auto attacks are not that good. I do not recommend making a basic attack build right now. And that's Thaumaturge. To be honest with you, I think they need to freshen up this class because it's getting stale. Anyway, now for the last class, Enchanter. Now Enchanter is another class that specializes in buffs, but more importantly, it focuses on damage increasing buffs. And the reason we took this class is because of Over Reinforce, one of its skills. It can give an additional effect to the fever buff of Jolly Roger. And Over Reinforce is a party buff that increases sub-weapon enhancement by 5 at max level. And this has an art called Over Reinforce All, which enhances not just the sub-weapon but also the armors, top, bottom, gloves, and boots. Another very useful party buff. Another enchanter skill is Lightning Hands, which is a 30-minute buff that gives about 50% additional lightning skill factor depending on your attribute. Another useful buff if you're an auto-attacking build, but as I've said, AA builds are crap at the moment. Next skill is Enchant Lightning. This basically gives you an additional lightning property damage for 13 minutes. This buff is very useful for low levels, kinda like the Pardoner buffs. Last skill we're gonna cover for Enchanter is Enchant Earth. This gives you the ability to block without using shields. And it also gives you about 30% block rate for 30 minutes. Very useful for classes that doesn't use shields. And that's Enchanter, still mostly the same. Got a bit of tweak from the last update and it feels like it didn't change at all. But to tell you quite frankly, I think it got nerfed. Simply because the original use of this class is to boost auto-attacking builds. But with what's happening with AA builds, Enchanter seems to be losing its value. And that's the class build, a damage increasing support build for those who just wants to support the team. And now, for the good and the bad. Let's start with the bad. First I could think of is the lack of offensive skills. You will find yourself using basic attacks often because your offensive skills are not enough. Next is Enchanter. Right now it's not as viable. I'm thinking just remove Enchanter and replace it with the other classes. My recommendation is Bullet Marker. Another drawback of this build is the lack of iframes, invincibility skills. Lastly, this build requires a huge amount of items for the buffs to be usable. It's kinda annoying. I wish they just remove the items required to be able to use the buffs. It's just a nuisance. Okay, that's the bad. Now for the good stuff. This class build is extremely good for damage buffing a team. The game never had this kind of damage increase. Another thing is this build is fairly easy to use because you don't have a lot of skills to use now and then. Aside from the damage buffs, you also have a huge array of utility buffs that can improve your team's gameplay. All in all, this build is good if you're always with the team, but if you're solo most of the time, this is gonna be bad. I suggest replacing Enchanter with other classes, as I said. And that's it guys, that's Corsair, Thaumaturge, and Enchanter. What do you think? Is this build worth doing or is it a pass? Share your thoughts in the comment section down below. And if you like the video, hit the like button so we can say Happy New Year to the YouTube algorithm. and subscribe to be part of the Gaming Hardcore family. And as always, this is Andre of Gaming Hardcore. See you in the next one.